You weren't born to be quiet. You were trained to shrink, stay small, and to whisper your truth or bury it altogether. Because power made others uncomfortable. Expression felt dangerous, and silence felt safer. But deep in your body, there's still a voice trembling to be heard. Not just loud, but true. Not rebellious, but reclaimed. Burn the Silence is an initiation podcast journey and maybe some little mini courses for the ones who are ready to stop abandoning their voice and start anchoring in their truth. This is not about yelling, it is about remembering. From repression to expression, silence to sacred fire, and from fear to frequency. You do not have to be polished, ready. All you have to be is done hiding. Welcome back to Burn the Silence. I'm so glad you're here today because this conversation is going to cut deep, but in the best way possible. This space has always been about truth, about saying the things most people are too afraid to say, and peeling back the layers so that we can see what's really going on beneath the surface. And today, we're going to talk about one of the most painful, but also the most liberating truths. What happens when your own family turns against your path? Because if you've ever felt misunderstood, judged, or even demonized by the people closest to you, this episode's for you. One of the hardest truths I've ever had to accept is that sometimes the people who love you the most will be the ones who misunderstand you the deepest. They'll project fear onto your choices. They'll call you names, and they will spin stories that make you into the villain. All because you decided to live differently than they did. And if that's something you've been walking through lately, I'm here to tell you that you are not alone. I've been right there too. Because recently I found out that certain family members have been talking about me, saying I'm a bad influence, I'm something dark or dangerous, simply because I speak openly about healing, truth, and spirituality. And here's the thing, it stung, but it didn't shock me, because every time you step into your power, there will always be people who try to shrink you back into their version of acceptable. This is ancient. Throughout history, anyone who chose a different path, anyone who spoke the truth, anyone who didn't fit the mold, got labeled as the witch, a heretic, a rebel, or simply the problem. It is the same story, just different characters. And when you know this, you stop taking it so personally. Their judgment is not really about you. It's about the box that they are too afraid to climb out of. So, what do you do when your family or community calls you names or starts spreading rumors and paints you as wrong? First of all, you breathe. You do not react from the wounds from the past, because reaction just fuels their fire. And second, you remember your why. You're not here to win every single person's approval. You're here to live in truth of who and what you are. And third, you let your actions speak louder than their words. The life that you're building, the integrity that you hold, and the love that you show your family and your children, that is the evidence that speaks. And here's something that I've been sitting with lately, because karma always comes through the mirror. Every single thing a person says about you, especially when it's soaked in judgment or venom, is really just bouncing off of the glass and back into their own lap. Because when people project onto you, they don't see you at all. What they are seeing is a distorted version of their own fears multiplied. Either the witch, the rebel, the monster. But that's not who you are. That's the monster they see in the mirror. And the more that they feed it, the bigger it grows. That's the karma. Not mine, not yours, but theirs. And when you know that, you stop carrying the weight of their words, because they were never really about you to begin with. So I want to leave you with a reflection. Where in your life are you still hiding because you don't want to be misunderstood? Where are you still shrinking so no one calls you names? Because the moment you stop protecting other people's comfort, you will find your power. And yes, they may call you the villain. They may call you dangerous. And they may even call you the devil. But in reality, you're just someone they couldn't control anymore. And that, my friend, is freedom. So, as we close today, I want you to remember this. Being misunderstood is not proof that you're on the wrong path. More often than not, it's actually proof that you've stepped into territory others are too afraid to touch. And when family, friends, or even strangers project their fears onto you, let them. That's their mirror, their karma, and their monster to wrestle with, not yours. Your job is to keep showing up in your integrity, keep speaking your truth, and keep living in a way that your children, your body, your soul can recognize as honest and aligned. And if this episode spoke to you, take a moment today to check in with yourself. Where have you been hiding because you're too afraid? What's one tiny step you can take this week to stop shrinking and start standing tall in who you really are? Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for being brave enough to walk this path of truth. And I can't wait to see you in the next episode. You made it. Not just through this podcast, but through the fire of your own silence. You are not just speaking, you're reclaiming a part of yourself that was waiting to be heard. So let this be your proof. You don't need permission. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be present with your truth, your voice, and your power. You are initiating new frequencies every day. One that doesn't shrink, doesn't self-abandon, and knows expression is a sacred act. So if your voice shakes, let it. If your truth burns, let it. Because this isn't the end. It's your initiation. Burn clean, holy, and loud. And if you're ready to go deeper, to understand the soul patterns behind your silence and fully embody the voice you've reclaimed, I invite you to book a soul mirror session where we will explore your astrology, your nervous system, and the sacred contracts your voice came here to fulfill. And if you're craving sacred community as you rewire your expression, I've been building the Sacred Dark Society. And this is a space where wild, wise, and the wordless parts of you are welcome. You're not just finding your voice, you're remembering your power. And we are just getting started.